What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on Wednesday afternoon. Got an 8-game MLB slate to talk about. Breaking it all down game by game, stacks, pitchers, home runs, everything you need to hopefully get to the winner's circle. Awesome night last night for the RPS crew. A lot of winners. I had a pretty good night. Steve Boynton, JBC, and what seemed like, 100 screenshots in the MLB Discord. You love to see it. Me and Boynton, I think, nailed a lot of what you needed to win last night. So no Steve Boynton today, but we got the call to the bullpen. Mr. Travis Mangone filling in. He's got the grand piano, the beautiful leather couch. He's here breaking down baseball for you. How's it going, Travis Mangone?
Yeah, I did not have the day that you guys had. I did have similar thought process. The thought process was similar, but it just didn't get home. So what can you do? I did have one nice Met stack, and I think the pitchers were good, but a couple of things weren't right on that. So what can you do? But overall, excited to break down the slate. We got 8 games, I think it is today. And then, of course, we're going to turn it over tomorrow, right? Quick, we'll be up in the morning, and then we're going to the game. You get to see the Coors Field. Hopefully the Dodgers will put up a ton of runs while we're there. So I don't know are we hoping for less runs tonight and then more tomorrow? I don't know, DC. What are we hoping for?
Yeah, it should be fun tomorrow. I think it'll be not too hot. I'm hoping it gets pretty warm sometimes. So yeah, hopefully we'll stay relatively cool. But we don't want it too cold. We still want some Dodgers home runs from the Dodgers, who I'll be stacking up tomorrow. 7-game slate tomorrow morning against Ty Block. Sign me up for that one. AP going off in the chat. Apparently Jorge Soler hit a home run.
He just banged one out. So it's 6-5.
I closed the game. Listen, the winners didn't stop last night. I mean, there were a ton. Boynton shipped the 121 single entry. I got 3rd and 6th in the $250 4 max. JBC was one check swing away from I think it was close to $300,000. I think he won 80,000 or so. And then, like I said, tons of members. And we're not going to dwell on this too much. We'll get into today's games shortly, but it does I think a lot of people, one thing that's frustrating to me, hitting on a 50% owned pitcher is not the same as hitting on a 10 or 15% owned pitcher in terms of your win equity and what it does for you getting to the top of the tournament. And when you're playing GPPs, it's not about how often you're cash or if your lineup finishes dead last. It's how often can you get a top 1% lineup, try to get to the top of the tournament. And, people make fun of me. DC loves the cheap pitchers every night. He's got a hard on for the cheap guys. Well, it's because of nights like last night where I was on Schwellenbach, Jonathan Cannon, Tobias Myers, and, fading for the most part a guy like Alec Marsh, who came in 50+% owned, because even if he goes off for 70 fantasy points, same thing with Tarek Skubal today, it doesn't actually help you get that much closer to where all the money is in a GPP, which is at the very top of the tournaments. And you got to be willing to accept some frustrating nights, maybe more than you would like to give yourself the best chance, the best equity at a big night. And it only takes a couple of them in a season to make a season. Maybe only one, right? Maybe one 50K score getting first in the big flagship tournament to make yourself a season. So I'm not going to rant too much on it. I've talked plenty about that in the past, but you should not be playing MLB GPPs or really any sport, but I think especially MLB GPPs with the thought of I'm going to min cash this tournament. If you're playing them like that, you need to move down in stakes, and play them to give yourself the best possible equity. So we'll continue to do that on the show. It was awesome to see so many winners last night. And Cape Allen, he is running away with the 555 25K score for Fallot coming right up at the conclusion of this slate. Hopefully didn't jinx him, but I think he's safe. He's got a 23-point lead, so he should be good to go. All right. Enough ranting from me, Mangone. Let's get into these games. I do think this is a very fun slate. It's going to be a slate where I take a big stand on one team. And, of course, that doesn't always work. Last time I did it was with the Reds against Tristan McKenzie. went down in flames. Of course, McKenzie yesterday gave up like 7 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings. So I feel like it was kind of the right thing to do. Didn't work out, but I've got another stand today that I'm excited about. We'll talk about it when that game comes up. But the first game we do need to talk about is the Orioles and the Yankees. Obviously, a matchup between two of the marquee teams in baseball, and an interesting spot because we get the return of Mr. Garrett Cole, who has not pitched an inning yet this season. He missed all of spring training, was diagnosed with what looked like it was going to have to be a Tommy John surgery, which I still think is probably coming for Garrett Cole at some point down the road in the next year or two. Seems like a ticking time bomb when you don't get it, but he does seem healthy right now, at least on the minor league results. 19 strikeouts, 0 walks in 12 innings at AAA. They took their time with him. They could afford to do so because the Yankees have been dominating all season. So didn't rush him back. I think we should see a pretty normal Garrett Cole here, maybe a slightly limited pitch count. He'll go opposite Cade Povich for the Orioles. Lefty prospect, really struggled in his first outing, but then was very, very good in his second outing against Atlanta. So jury's kind of out on him, 5,800. I don't think I'm going there against the Yankees, but they will be without Aaron Judge, who got hit on the hand yesterday. Sounds like he'll only miss a couple days. X-rays, MRIs were negative. He should be able to come back soon, but not in there tonight, which certainly does benefit Cade Povich if you're looking for a cheap pitcher there at 5,800. We'll throw it over to you, Mangone. I think there are some contrarian takes to make in this game, but what are you doing with the Yankees and Orioles?
Yeah, definitely not my favorite game to kick it off. I'll say that. Like, for one, the Garrett Cole stuff, it's like I don't feel super confident playing him at 9K to kick off his season against the Baltimore Orioles. It just is a tad concerning to me. All right. We have a slate with a lot of really good pitchers. If Garrett Cole was 9K yesterday, I think people would have made the case for it more. I think with so many other options in that range, I don't need to go to Garrett Cole, especially against Baltimore. It's not really a team that I'm trying to pick on. I don't even know what his pitch count's going to be. Maybe you have insight on that, DC. Did you get anything on the pitch count and stuff?
Yeah, he's pretty well stretched out. So he made 3 appearances through 45 in his first outing, 57 and 68 in his last one, where he struck out 10 batters in 4 1/3 innings in AAA. So I think around 80 for Cole tonight, which I'm not playing Garrett Cole at 9K on this slate against the Orioles. But I'm actually more interested in these Orioles lefty power in Yankee Stadium. Garrett Cole's first outing of the year. I like playing lefty power against Garrett Cole anyway. And again, I'm not like full stacking the Orioles or anything, but Adley Rutschman in particular looks really good to me. I think you could play a Gunnar Henderson or Ryan O'Hearn. I think those plays are going to be super, super low owned and have a pretty good, decent chance of taking Cole out to that right field porch in New York.
Yeah, I don't hate that. We always talk about how Garrett Cole, like in almost every start, even if he goes for like 9 strikeouts, like it feels like he is at least one solo shot, right? So I don't think it's a terrible take, especially with Baltimore and how good that team is. I will say the only issue with it is pricing today. Like, there are a lot of good spend up pitchers, and I think pricing's going to feel tight today. That's my opinion. I haven't built too much like hand build wise, but it does feel like, just looking at the pricing, it's going to feel tight. Now, if it is tight pricing, what do we think of Cade Povich? I mean, no Aaron Judge. I'm not dying to play him in this spot. There's a lot of other cheap pitchers, like not a lot. There's a couple of cheap pitchers that I feel like I'd rather take chances on than Cade Povich. So I'll probably let everyone else play Cade Povich if they want and move on. Like, I don't think this is a game I'm going to have any exposure to, DC. Again, it's a 7-game slate. There's a lot of good pitchers. There's a lot of good hitters. And I just don't think this is a game I'm really going to get that much exposure to. And I think the field agrees, right? Wouldn't you agree this is a game that not a lot of people are going to get exposure to?
Yeah, Povich coming around 10%. It looks like, which feels about right. It feels honestly maybe even a little bit high. I mean,
that feels high in my opinion, especially with other good cheap pitchers. Like, there's a couple that at least are on my radar that we'll get to.
Yeah, Garrett Cole around 10% as well. I would actually be more likely to play Povich than I would Garrett Cole, just given the huge price savings. Povich is a prospect of some note. And, of course, this lineup way easier without Judge in there. Juan Soto, yeah, he has not he did hit a home run, I think, since the injury. So, he's probably fine. But, yeah, I mean, you can see Povich putting up 20 fantasy points here. I don't think he's crazy at 5,800. There are some other guys I like better. The top end of pitching does look really good on this slate. So, I do want to mostly spend up. But yeah, Povich, I would say he is, at least in my eyes, definitely the cheapest viable pitcher, which does grant him some interest, especially, the Dodgers are back in Coors Field, right, where they're just absolutely smashing. And now they get, Ryan Feldner in that bullpen again. And if you want to get the Ohtani, Freeman, Teoscar stack, you got to spin down a pitching. So for that reason, I think Povich is an okay play. Not going to go there too much myself. You don't need to play any bats here. My favorite individual bat in this game is definitely Adley Rutschman. Will have exposure to him myself for sure. Let's get you Boston and Toronto up next. 8 total in this one. Kevin Gausman pitching for Toronto. He's had pretty wild season, kind of all over the place. He had the complete game shutout with 10 strikeouts against Oakland 2 starts ago, but 2 of his last 3 have been pretty mediocre. He's had, I think, 3 or 4 negative outings this season already. We're not even halfway through the year. But he does get a pretty good matchup here against Boston. I do think the Red Sox lefties are interesting plays. I believe, can steal bases to some extent against Gausman. So those guys I think are in play. Yeah, Gausman giving up 12 steals already this year. So Jarren Duran is Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton hitting second at 4K I think is very interesting. Devers, of course, can do damage. Yeah, kind of nervous for Gausman here. I do think he has upside against a strikeout-heavy Red Sox team. I don't think I'm going to play a ton of Gausman myself. Probably not going to play much Brian Bayo either, pitching for the Red Sox. He got off to a hot start, has really faltered in these last 3 outings. Really contact-oriented Blue Jays team. So good price for Bayo if you're a believer at 7,500. I'm not going to play him here against this Blue Jays team. I would be more interested in grabbing some Blue Jays bats. But overall in this game, probably a little bit of a contrarian take. It's the Boston speed that I want. That's Duran, Hamilton. That's about it. Give me that 2-man stack at the top of that Red Sox lineup, man. Going, what are you doing with the Toronto Blue Jays and Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, this is definitely a game you have to have a little bit of interest in for sure. So for me, I'm not a big Gausman guy. It's just now the take with Gausman is kind of goes back to some of the stuff that you've talked about, DC, is like when you get a 50% pitcher, right, it doesn't matter, right? But when you nail that he's a fade at 30%, that's important. And if he's 10% and no one has him, like that's how I handle Gausman. I like to really think about what is Gausman's ownership going to be versus the field. So I think on almost any slate that's important. I also think another thing that we've discussed with Gausman is, well, what's the matchup for Gausman? Because Gausman's matchup he's basically just beat up on bad teams and been really bad against good teams. So where do we rank? I guess I'll ask you this, DC, and then I'll dive into it more. Where do we rank Boston? Are they considered a good hitting team or a bad hitting team? Because I feel like against righties they're good, but lefties they're bad. Isn't that correct?
Definitely better against right-handed pitching. And they are a boomer bust team. A lot of strikeouts throughout the lineup, but they do have power. They do like to run a little bit. So, yeah, I would put them in that boomer bust category. I play a lot of lefties against Boston, not so much on the right-handed pitching. And, yeah, I am playing 150 today, so I will have some Gausman, but it'll be under the 20% that the field will have.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I will probably not play him just because I think there's other pitchers I'd rather play. I wouldn't argue. It does feel like yesterday when people, I think on the show you guys said like you might put 2 condoms on and just play the field with Marsh. Like I wouldn't hate if someone just said they'll do that with Gausman, right? Like He's definitely not someone I want to be overweight on. If anything, I'd rather just be underweight. and just call it a day. So I'd either be underweight or fade on Gausman if I had to pick. I think Bayo's kind of intriguing. I mean, this Toronto lineup does have a lot of righties in it, and it has for like the past couple of years. They have had some additions like that have made their lineup a little bit better. But like Schneider, for instance, he's been a good example. He's not even in the lineup today, actually. Horowitz at the top, he's been a little bit better as a lefty, and Varsho. But overall, I don't know. I think I want to take some chances on Bayo in tournaments at 7,500. I think he'll be low enough owned too, where the upside is really good. And from some of the numbers I looked at, it seemed like there was some positive regression that could be coming in his favor. And I'm not scared of this Blue Jays team. I mean, obviously he's had some struggles against other matchups, but he's shown a ceiling, and I think he's worth taking a chance on at 7,500. I classify him as a cheap pitcher tonight. So he's one of those cheap guys that I kind of want to get exposure to. I think there's another one that I prefer, but I think he's in the conversation today as one of the better cheap pitching options here on this slate. So I only really have interest in him, and I don't have a ton of interest in the bats. Like, if you want to play Boston, yeah, for the boom bust perspective, no one's going to really play Boston today, I don't think. I think they'll be fairly low owned. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I know Gausman has been bad, and maybe, I don't know, I see some of the Sabersim stuff is popping a little bit, but I don't think Boston's going to be owned. Am I wrong about that?
I don't think so. I mean, we know Saber. They love the low owned stacks, just always. Which, I mean, there's definitely something to that. I'm not hating on it. But yeah, they'll be low owned. Like I said, Duran, Hamilton at the top. Some interest in O'Neill, Devers. Yoshida's fine. I would mostly stick to the top half of this lineup personally. But like I said, I do like the speed at the top of the Boston lineup the best. Duran, Hamilton, the two bats that I'm looking at. And
Hamilton's amazing, by the way. Like he's going to be a very boom bust play. Like he's going to either get you 0 or get you like 30. It's going to be crazy with this stolen base.
I'm a little worried. It was, I think, a side injury. Okay, I thought it was a hamstring for some reason. I mean, most of his value obviously is in the stolen bases, so I was a little concerned that, but I don't think he would be in there if he couldn't run because he doesn't really have much else of value. So I do like him. I do like Jarren Duran quite a bit, who offers some power as well from the left side. And if you're in on Bayo, Mangon, I mean, you're going to get him at like 2% owned. So I'm not going there, but at that number, at that price point, I certainly can't hate it. Let's get to.
The Blue Jays aren't good, right? Like this isn't a team we're scared.
They just make too much contact. It's strike.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like the strikeout upside isn't as great there, but also keep in mind, like I know Bayo, he does better in those strikeout matchups, but he has strikeout stuff, right? It matters is the control there. If the control's there, he's gonna dominate.
And he is better against righties. The Blue Jays don't have much from the left side. They do have Horowitz, Varsho, Barger, and Kiermaier, but none of those guys are very threatening bats from the left side. So, yeah, not a terrible spot for Bayo. I think the ownership and price make him at least worth considering if you are trying to get a little bit contrarian. Let's get to Tampa Bay and Minnesota up next. The Twins bats have certainly come alive as of late. Has coincided with the return of Royce Lewis, who I think is an amazing play in this game. We've got Joe Ryan pitching against Taj Bradley. Bradley has some pretty bizarre numbers this year. The strikeout stuff has been awesome for him, but he continues to give up a lot of hard contact, as he did last year. There's not very many pitchers who miss a ton of bats and also give up a lot of hard contact when hitters do make contact. It's just kind of a rare combination, but it does look like Taj Bradley might be one of those pitchers who does fit that mold. I do think these Twins bats are interesting against him. The power bats, guys like Royce Lewis in particular, Trevor Larnach, I think is okay. Carlos Correa has been on fire. I don't mind him. But then I don't mind Taj Bradley on the other side. The strikeout stuff is good enough. Pretty strikeout prone Minnesota lineup. So I think it is one where you can play both sides. In terms of the Joe Ryan versus the Rays matchup, certainly lean the Joe Ryan side here. He's been pretty great all season, ticking right along, really showing not too many signs of slowing down. A lot of strikeouts in the Rays lineup. Not a lot of bats that you really fear either. So I do like Joe Ryan quite a bit. There are several high-priced pitchers that are worth considering tonight. But for me, I think Joe Ryan is right up there with any of them. I do think he'll be pretty highly owned. Sabres got him around 25 to 30% tonight. I think that seems pretty accurate to me. And I've got interest for sure at that number. Not a lot of Rays bats interest. Good bullpen behind Joe Ryan as well. So probably not going to any Rays bats. And then I do like some of the Twins bats, in particular, Royce Lewis, who I don't think many people are going to be willing to pay that $6,100 price tag tonight. Trying to look up ownership. Yeah, they've got Royce Lewis at 3% owned tonight, which is sometimes what you get for a stud bat in a, quote unquote mediocre spot. I think the spot is better than mediocre for Royce Lewis. So he's one of my favorite one-offs tonight. But what are you doing, man, going with Tampa Bay and Minnesota?
Yeah, I do really like the Royce Lewis call. I was on board with you where I don't know. I said it when he got hurt. I said, Royce Lewis, we are not playing the Twins, at least by we.
You were right. They've come back when he's been back.
Yeah, the lineup's just so different with him in it. So I love the Royce Lewis call. And another thing, it's going to be hard to just get him. Like when you just play one-offs, like it's really rare on these like slates with a lot of really good spend-up pitchers. It's really rare that your one-offs or your stacks are just like a 6.1K guy, because typically it's jamming in expensive pitchers, and then your stack is somewhat pricey to a degree, and then it always just makes your mini stack the cheap, like just let's like put someone in there, right? Like maybe Nicky Lopez and like Tommy Pham, you know what I mean? Like it puts in stupid stuff like that all the time when you run an optimizer. So getting an expensive one-off or two-man is going to be hard to get. So Royce Lewis will not be owned. I like that call a lot. Taj Bradley is also a very boom-bust pitcher where I think at no ownership, you could definitely make a case for the Twins stack. And I think you can make a case for Taj Bradley because of what the upside is. And I mean, you did say some of the numbers are bizarre, which makes sense. I was looking at some of his metrics and I was like, it looks like he is due for some positive progression based on like the XFIP and everything like that. But I don't know. He just seems like a guy that maybe the numbers you can't really figure out. You just chase the upside at low ownership. And then when he's high owned, you fade because you know what the downside is. We saw it yesterday with Alec Marsh, right? So he's not owned today. Because he's not owned today, I think we should take some steps, especially when the matchup is the Minnesota Twins, who are kind of strikeout heavy. So I definitely don't mind Bradley. I would take some chances on it. Yes, you can make the case, though, that there's some better pitchers that are a little more expensive, but he is only 8K. That price savings is kind of nice. Like if you told me Kevin Gausman or Taj Bradley or Tyler Anderson, like give me Taj Bradley every single time. So that's kind of my take on it. And again, don't love the bats in this game. I don't think Joe Ryan, I should talk a little bit about him. At 9,500, I don't think he's a terrible play. I know that lineup for the Rays is getting a little bit stronger here. They are out of that ballpark, so that helps them. They got Brandon Lowe, lefty, as lefty here. Josh Lowe is another lefty, Palacios and Walls. So that lineup is definitely getting stronger for Tampa. So overall, I think Ryan's in play, but my only argument I would make, DC, is I just think there's a couple other pitchers in this range that I prefer. Like if I'm making a tier and we haven't gotten to some of the guys, like Joe Ryan or Garrett Crochet against Houston. I know Houston's a tough matchup, but I'm playing Crochet instead. I don't know if you have a different take on like ranking Ryan versus these other guys, but I think he's a good play, but I also think there's better plays in this range.
I think it's close between the top guys, Crochet, Ryan, like you mentioned. It's one more right up there that's expensive.
Yeah, it's Reagan's Peralta, Ryan, Crochet, and then Cole I just eliminated.
Four of them, yeah. Right. Reagan's Peralta, Ryan, Crochet, I think are all good plays, high upside plays. I think it's going to spread out between them, and I don't have a super strong take between those guys. Looking at Taj Bradley, though, in particular, I know I talked up Royce Lewis, and I'm going to have plenty of Royce Lewis tonight. I'm seeing Bradley. Sabres got him down around 5% on this slate. I mean, I'll definitely take a couple shots on Bradley. Rays are letting him go. I mean, he's been over 90 pitches in 4 of the last 5 outings. Missing a ton of bats. The metrics look good. He's throwing a lot of strikes, throwing hard, missing a lot of bats, getting chases. I mean, everything you kind of want from a pitcher. So I think Josh Bradley at that price point is very intriguing to the point where I might be rolling him out on one or two of my main teams. I would not play them on the same lineup on an 8-game slate. I'm willing to do that on a shorter slate, but especially when they're both pretty expensive, you need a pretty big score out of both of them, especially Royce Lewis. Yeah. You basically need a home run out of Royce Lewis, and then obviously if Bradley gives that up, it's going to hurt him. So not on this slate. I think it's worth considering. I think, thoughts like that, just in general in DFS, if you can think of them, like they are oftentimes, in my opinion, a kind of a really contrarian strategy, can be plus EV, but you got to pick your spots. In my opinion, tonight isn't the spot to play Royce Lewis and Taj Bradley in the same lineup. But
here's a great example, DC. So eight game slate, it's too many. Like when you get to 4 or 5 game slates, now you start getting some ownership condensing in certain spots. And
I think the bigger thing, even in the size of the slate, is the price of the players. So if Bradley is 5K, you don't need nearly as much out of him, right? He can give up a home run in that scenario. The number of games matters for sure. And then you want a low number of games and then low pricing, right? So then they can both get there without having to smash. And it's hard for them both to smash if you're relying on a home run. Obviously, it could come off the bullpen, but if you're playing Bradley, you're hoping to get through 6 or 7 innings. That would just leave probably one at bat for Royce Lewis outside of Bradley.
And it's the context of the pitchers on the slate. Like, there's just too many good pitchers where I don't think I'd do it. For instance, I had a slate last year. I remember I was with JT. We were in this New York City, and I was like, man, pitching sucks. It was kind of a shorter slate, and it was, I think Heaney was on the mound, and I was just chasing for upside, and I was like, can I play Bregman against Heaney? He's like, yeah, it's a short enough slate, and he gives up home runs, and I got the solo shot, and I got the Heaney 7 strikeout game, and it worked out well. But it was, again, a very short slate, not 8 games, and the context was Heaney was 6K, and there was no one good to spend on. There was one spend up, and it was someone that I didn't want to play, and then it was just a bunch of bums. So the context definitely matters.
I'm not giving you credit for that segue, Mangone, because there's just no way that you meant to do it. But Andrew Heaney is up in the next game of the night. Am I wrong? Did you deserve credit? Did you know Andrew Heaney? Was it the Alex Bregman?
I knew he was on the slate. I didn't know he was the next game. That definitely is partially why, because and Heaney's a guy that I know he's just he is the definition of a very boom bust guy, where if he got me -10, I wouldn't be shocked. And if he got me 30, I wouldn't be shocked, because that's just the Andrew Heaney experience. So.
Yeah, we'll get to that game next. We got 2 veteran lefties here. Sean Manaea, our friend Sean Manaea, who we met at the bar outside Coors Field. Do you remember the name of the bar, Mangone? I know the name. Do you know the name of the bar that Sean Manaea graced us with his presence? And you were too scared, by the way, to go say hi to him.
I wasn't scared. I didn't want to be annoying. There was already 2 people that kind of, bothered him. I just didn't want to be that guy. I was like, all right, a couple people have already done it, so let him have his day. And
you weren't as scared as Dean was, so I'll give you credit for that.
What?
Dean was absolutely aghast that we would go ask Sean Manaea for a photo when he's trying to enjoy his night out.
Yeah, Dean was very upset. I was like, I just don't. I mean, again, if I loved Sean Manaea, I would have went out there and got the picture. But I was like, I don't need one. So, yeah. What was it? You asked me a question. I forget. What was the?
Yeah, I don't remember the question. Well, we'll just get your thoughts on the game. New York Mets, Texas Rangers, Manaea and Andrew Heaney.
Yeah.
Oh, the name of the bar. The name of the bar that we were at.
No, it was one up, right? That's the name of it?
Yes. Classic bar. Classic bar. They got a bunch of video games and I don't know, a couple scuffles at one up in my day. But maybe we'll get there tomorrow, Mangone, after Coors Field. Maybe Sean Manaea won't be there, but maybe we'll get some other MLB star pitchers. All right. Enough of that. Your thoughts here, Mangone. Mets and Rangers. I got some strong thoughts on this one, so let's see if you can figure out what they are.
Yeah, so as a Mets fan, I've been enjoying the ride of Grimace. It's been a lot of fun, the 7-0. Happy to see them make a comeback. So Sean Manaea, I'm not Sean Manaea. I'm not playing Sean Manaea. I don't think he's a good play. He's not someone is on my radar. Let me talk about Andrew Heaney, because Andrew Heaney is a very boom-bust pitcher. You can make arguments for him in certain matchups. this is not the matchup. The matchup against the team that walks a lot and doesn't strike out a bunch, it's just not perfect. I want him against the Seattle Mariners. That's a great matchup for Andrew Heaney. I don't think this is a great matchup, and I'm also, I'm not betting against Grimace. I want to keep rooting on the Mets. So for me, I don't see myself playing Andrew Heaney. If you did want to play like a one-off of like a JD Martinez, I'll give you that just because that dude has been on absolute fire. I know he's coming off a bad game. That's the one guy that he's just been locked in for the Mets lately. So him or Lindor, I wouldn't totally hate as one-offs, but that's really it. I want to play the Mets really badly, but I don't know. I mean, maybe you got a better take than me, DC.
Yeah. I had hope for you, Mangum, but you failed me. Once again, you missed out on the stack of the night. The New York Mets here are going to absolutely smash. We've been talking about the Mets a long time on this show. I know they've gotten JT to the winner's circle, a bunch of RPS members. They've had some good nights for me. This team they flipped the switch somewhere. You mentioned the Grimace thing.
Francisco Alvarez, they're actually like 18-1, like since he's like been in the lineup, like or something like that. They have an insane.
He came back more recently than that. It was I've talked about it a lot on the show. They moved Lindor to the leadoff spot. Around that time, they sent Brett Beatty, who couldn't hit himself out of a wet paper bag. Got slugger Mark Vientos in there. They've just recently gotten Alvarez back in there, which is a huge, huge upgrade from the crap that they were rolling out at catcher. JD Martinez, who signed late into spring training. He took a little bit of while to get going with the stick, but he's been on fire. They moved Alonso from the 2-hole to the cleanup spot, which, come on, that's where Pete Alonso belonged. He's like a classic cleanup hitter, and, man, they have been on fire. They've scored the most runs per game of any team in the month of June, have the New York Mets, and a lot of that damage has come against left-handed pitching, who they have just absolutely smashed, even more so than the numbers indicate. Looking at like their barrel per plate appearance against lefties, in the last month or so, it's just off the charts. They are barreling up lefties like no other team. I talk about this often. They don't really pinch hit really at all. Jose Iglesias, I think the only pinch hit risk in this lineup, of course, another guy could come out of the game if it's a blowout or whatever. And then you got Andrew Heaney on the other side. You mentioned him, Mangum, very blow-up prone, gives up a lot of power, can start walking dudes, and just a pitcher who does have some talent. But when it goes south for Heaney, it gets really, really bad. So they've got that going for him. And then I think an overlooked factor in this game, the bullpen for the Rangers is not great anyway, but it is gassed out after a couple high-scoring games for the Mets. And it looks like the pitcher that's probably going to come in for the Rangers if Heaney gets knocked out relatively early is – I don't even have his name up here. I think Brock Burke is his name. Yeah, just a crappy lefty for the Texas Rangers. They're out of pitchers. It looks like to me the Rangers are. I haven't seen them if they made a roster move, but they're going to ask Heaney to go as deep into this game as he can. And I think it could go really, really well for the Mets. Of course, the drawback here is the park, right? We don't love targeting this, dome park, but this is a spot where I will make an exception. We've got someone.
We do have
stacks. This is it. This is why we're rolling out 150. We're rolling out the 150 Met stacks today. All 5 mans. We're getting in there. We'll mix up the pitching. We'll mix up the one-offs, but we're rolling in on the Mets today. I think they're going to do some serious damage here against Andrew Heaney, who, again, I don't do this very often, and frankly, more often than not when I do, it doesn't work out super well, but this was too good of a spot for me. I absolutely love the Mets here, and I would never do it on a super popular team, right? That doesn't make any sense to go play 100% of a team when the field has 20%. But I think the Mets are mostly going to be around 5% owned. And that's the type of spot where I like to take a big stand and send it. And if it doesn't work, you know what? We'll stack up Coors Field tomorrow and try to get our money back. So all in.
I don't believe the 5%, by the way. Like, I don't totally believe that number.
Sabres got Lindor at 12%, JD at 8%, and then the rest of them around 5%, which they don't have a big team total, right? It's sitting at like 4.2 still.
Who's stack number 2 then? So stack number 1 is the Dodgers. Who's stack number 2 ownership wise? Because I can't figure that out yet. That's part of me giving some pause to the Mets stuff.
Probably the Brewers against Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, actually, you're probably right. It's probably ends up being them, which I do like them a lot. So maybe I will adjust. The Mets are good. Like, they're not a bad play today at all. They're definitely a good play. I was a little worried about their ownership. Another thing that's nice about their lineup that I didn't realize, no Jeff McNeil, and they got Iglesias in there. And I know that sounds like a big deal, or doesn't sound like a huge deal, but Jeff McNeil is legit like a hole in that lineup. So, like, just to have Iglesias, a contact hitter in there, especially against a guy like Heaney, I'd much rather him in that lineup right now than Jeff McNeil. McNeil is terrible right now. So Alvarez definitely good. Vientos, you talked about him. He's been good. So, yeah, I definitely should play the Mets a little bit more. So I'll make the adjustments, DC. I won't play 150, but I'll definitely adjust.
You can try to beat my 150 with your one Mets stack. If you do, I will be very tilted and, I don't know, kick you in the balls tomorrow or something. That's New York Mets and Texas Rangers. We didn't talk much about the Rangers side. I think they're a little bit interesting too. I mean, Sean Manaea, I like righty power against him. Marcus Semien, Grossman crushes lefties. Adolis Garcia. Wyatt Langford super cheap. I don't want to sleep super bad on the Rangers. We obviously, the Mets are my team tonight, but I do like these Rangers bats a little bit too. Any interest there?
I do not have interest in the Rangers bats. Like, I get it, but this team's playing bad right now, and there's other ways I'd rather use my my ownership percentages. And I want to know what Todd's going to say. I think
Todd Pierce, you are officially. I know what this means. It means he's on the Mets too. You're officially banned from playing the Mets. Please don't play the Mets. If I need to PayPal you your entry fee for your Mets team that you were going to play, I will do so to keep you off of them so that I can ship the slate.
The biggest concern isn't that. It's Book It with Trent. Book It with Trent is on the. He's trying to stop the curse. That's also very big. That's concern. The biggest concern. He said, he has this shtick where he's like, whenever there's like a streak going on, he's like, I'm the final boss, and you got to stop the final boss, and he's gonna try to end the streak tonight. He said. So there you
go. Well, I will have very little Jose Iglesias, Big T. So there you go. Also, that seems like a Big T play. Big platoon, only plays against the lefties.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised Big T's not on Jose Iglesias himself, but no, he will be my least owned Met, no question about it.
Yeah, Big T. My take was that or Jeff McNeil. It's better that he's in the lineup than Jeff McNeil. If you want to argue for Jeff McNeil, go right ahead, Big T. You'll look like an idiot because it's just not right. Like, Jeff McNeil's terrible right now against the lefty. It's a bad take. So I'm not saying I'm playing Jose Iglesias everywhere. I'm saying it helps churn the lineup, right? It helps keep giving us runs, helps us get the Francisco Lindor, helps us get the Pete Alonso, JD Martinez, and all the good bats.
Do you think Big T will ever show up on another baseball show? I feel like he was there opening day and then came to one other. And I don't know, he's too busy golfing, crying about his Mavericks. I don't know what Big T's doing. Let's get to Chicago and Houston up next. 7 total in this one of the lowest on the slates. We're going to get 2 popular pitchers here, Garrett Crochet, Hunter Brown. I like both these guys. Sabres got Hunter Brown still and again, I always try to point out when I don't think it's going to be true, but don't shoot the messenger. They still got Hunter Brown around 15% owned, which I've been on the Hunter Brown train for a while now. And he has absolutely delivered pretty much every time out. Now he gets arguably the worst lineup in baseball. If he's anywhere close to that ownership mark, like you can even double, even double it and put him at 30%. I still think he's an awesome play. So love Hunter Brown here. He obviously provides some savings. And then Garrett Crochet, another guy that the RPS crew has been on all year long since the very first start of the year for Garrett Crochet. Not jumping off here. I know it's a tough matchup against Houston, but not quite as tough given One, no Kyle Tucker, obviously a big bonus to he's not in there to Crochet, and no Jordan Alvarez either. So this Astros lineup does not look quite as good. And oh my gosh, there he is, the man himself, Big T. The floor is yours, Big T. I don't even got anything else to say. Go ahead.
I mean, I come when I'm wanted. Whenever I'm wanted, I like to be wanted. Everyone wants to be wanted. When I'm wanted on a baseball show, even if it's to make fun of me and my dusty splits plays, I got to come on. I mean, that's
platoon plays, big platoon.
Yeah, big platoon plays. Even if it's just to make fun of the platoon plays, I got to come on. And I was definitely not talking about Jeff McNeil, Mango. I didn't even know Jeff McNeil was still in baseball.
He sadly is. I think he played the other night, and he was a giant hole in the lineup.
Yeah, I never liked
it. It feels like a show where we're gonna have Mangone raging in about 12 minutes. But
he was ready to rage about Jeff McNeil. That's another reason he was getting mad at me, and I didn't even know why he was mad at me.
You're making fun of Jose Iglesias.
Did you talk him up or something?
I just said it's great that he's in the lineup because Jeff McNeil's a hole, and so when bases are loaded and Jeff McNeil's up, and he swings and misses, it ruins the stack, right? It ruins the lineup, turning around. We want it always.
Why were you mad at me about it, though? I agree with you.
You look like you're making
fun of people. Look how excited they are for the Big T appearance.
How come the screen gets messed up when we pull a comment on there? That's crazy. How does it do that?
Big T, did you have a big golf week? I know you were all in on the big boy Bryce.
Oh. I told the stories. I felt weird about it because I won like 25 grand on the outright, and I had him in my core in DFS, and I had Morikawa who did pretty good. I think he was in my core. I can't remember my exact core, but basically I felt like I nailed the up top guys, but I must have just missed on everything else because I got like nothing back in DFS, and I don't know how because I had Bryson everywhere. So I must have just sucked on everything else. But
that's like
luckily I hit the outright and still had a good week because of the outright. Because I don't know, I honestly don't know how I did as bad as I did. Scotty too. Scotty sucked for once, and I had a bunch of Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty.
But it was still fun. I definitely Bryson's one of the guys. Take the money out of it. I just root for. Kind of like the Nugget. I just felt good to see him win that thing.
Todd, I can't promise. I got to get you a Mets over from my mom play again. I gotta get that. But I'll work on
how the whole screen shifts when we do the comments.
It's weird.
It's all right.
I'll be honest too. I wanted to make fun of because it's just funner when we make fun of people. I wanted to make fun of DC's Mets, but the more I look at this lineup, the more I'm on board with them. This lineup looks tasty out there.
Plenty of room on the Mets bandwagon. Plenty of room.
The lineup does.
You know how it is, though, when you just want to make fun of each other, like you want to so bad. Like you want to hate the Mets. I wanted to make fun of you, and
you're looking at like each individual player. Like I like that guy. I like that.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I went down the list, and I'm like, I can't really make fun of anything.
There's no Jeff McNeil. There's no DJ Stewart, right? Like it's just like this lineup is like one of their best they put out this year. It is one of the best. Vientos has been amazing.
It's such a good splits lineup too. You got all these dudes versus a lefty that gives up power. Like yeah,
beautiful.
I like it.
Beautiful.
What about our boy Fallick? Did you guys talk about our boy Kevin taking everything down?
I've been talking about him on the show multiple times. Yes, I know he won the 555, did he win the flagship too? 50K?
I don't know what he won exactly, but like 60 grand, a little 60 grand in the afternoon.
Let me take a look.
I didn't see the exact count because he always posts that screenshot that shows like the team.
Yeah, I was in the 555 with him. He shipped that by like 25 points or something.
What was that prize? The 555?
25K. And he had another team up there too. So awesome night for Fallick. It's been a really, really fun run in the MLB streets just for RPS.
You guys just crushed it yesterday on the show too. We're talking about all those pitchers. I hated the stud pitchers yesterday and listening to you guys talk through it. I mean, I did like Marsh too, which I'm not going to say every pitcher was, but those other cheapies crushed. So Marsh plus those cheapies was definitely Marsh sucked. Yeah. I get that, but the other guys crushed. And you guys talked about how to get off of Marsh for those other guys. I wasn't smart enough to get off Marsh totally, but those other guys were awesome.
Schwellenbach, Myers, Jonathan Cannon all crushed at pretty low ownership as well. So we love that. Big T, it sounds like you're joining me on the Mets train, which wise move, I must say. Wise move from the boss man. Any other big takes on this slate? We're 5 games into it. We got a little bit of time here. Anything you're looking at that maybe we missed?
No, I mean, I thought you guys did a good job, but I like these slates, honestly, where it looks very cut and dry with the Coors game. I think they're really good there, which I like the Mets to be kind of a pivot off that. Still mixed in with the Coors, though, because the rest of the slate, to me, doesn't look like much offense. So I love it when you have really good spots and then not much else out there, because I like how DC was saying, I'll just slam it in there. I mean, I won't do 150 Mets, but I'll definitely mix the Mets a ton heavier with the Coors game. Just I can't see that Coors game not doing well, too. I mean, the Dodgers always roll there.
DC, it's cold out today. Like, I'll say that.
No,
like,
it's not.
It was earlier. Maybe because I was out too early. I should go check again. But it was earlier.
I mean, it's not the same weather we had the last couple of days, but it's 70 degrees, humid, and wind blowing out in Coors Field. It's not
Feldner and freaking Bobby Miller.
Like, yeah.
I know. I'm just saying. There's been a lot of days where I've walked outside and been like, it's hot as hell, and the ball's gonna fly, and then it has, and other days it hasn't. So I'm just, I have to go check again because I was out kind of early this morning. So maybe that's
yeah. We got time on this league. But Balak, if you're watching, if you're at home, you want to jump on the show, be happy to have you on the 4-man booth. Give the winners for late night games, but that does bring us
Alec
to.
isn't allowed on though because he made fun of the Mets. He's not allowed to make fun of our team.
No, I didn't see that. In which case, no thanks.
But
come on,
he's got to take his money and go to the hills. We're not allowed. You're not allowed on here, Fallick, if you're making fun of our squad.
That's surprised, Fallick. Not to mess with us.
DC, you know why it hasn't been as hot today? Because I swear, every day this week when I've been driving, my phone has been on fire afterwards. Absolute
in your
fire.
car?
Yeah, in my car.
Like it's on fire in the car.
Because I'm just obviously I'm on it, so it's just sitting there and it's hot.
Too long of conversations with your mother. The phone
you
needs
hold
some
your
time.
phone though? Why is it not just sitting there in the air conditioning?
Because I literally hold it sometimes when I'm driving. Yeah.
You don't have it through your car?
What do you mean through my car?
Like,
what do you mean?
Through the hands free or whatever, through the speaker.
No. Oh no, I'm saying like if I'm like texting or something at like a light or something. You know what I mean?
Don't text and drive, man. Come on.
Yeah. It's not very safe, Travis. It's not very safe out there in those Denver streets.
It's coming from the guy I've seen watch like movies while he drives. But okay, yeah.
Don't say that out loud. Don't be getting in trouble.
You got to put the driving on hard mode. It's boring if you don't try to do something else. Multitask while do it. Dodgers and Rockies up next. 3 games to go here. Obviously, this one going to be a popular one. Dodgers with the crazy 9th inning. They were, frankly, mostly a bust yesterday until that 9th inning. We saw the Jason Hayward pinch hit grand slam, and then Ohtani did some more damage, and then of course the Teoscar check swing that turned into the winning 3-run homer. I believe, what was it, 8? I don't even know, 8 runs, something like that, 7 runs in the 9th inning for the Dodgers.
9-4 going in, and then 11-9, is that right?
Yes, 7 runs. Just a crazy night from them. This Rockies bullpen is bad. They are running out of pitchers. They got one more game to go tomorrow, Mangone, which is going to be very enjoyable watching the Dodgers score 20 runs in person with 150 Dodgers stacks. But we'll stick to tonight's game for now. Ryan Feltner, he's been okay, kind of survived. It's just you can't pitch in Coors. And, of course, the Dodgers should be expected to do more damage. No Will Smith in the lineup, so a hit to this team. They do have a lot of pretty dusty bats like Lux, Biggio, Enrique Kike Hernandez, Austin Barnes. I don't love those guys, but, man, I've been playing a ton of Ohtani every game in Coors Field and will continue to do so on this slate. Just too good of a spot for Ohtani in Coors Field against this bad pitching staff. So 7K, try to find a way to get him in. Freeman, Teoscar, Pajes, Hayward. Honestly, my interest in this lineup is almost directly correlated to the order of the lineup itself, which doesn't happen all that often. Love the Dodgers here. The Rockies, I think, are really interesting. Bobby Miller is a very talented pitcher, but was struggling and then went to the IL with shoulder inflammation back in April. They pushed his return to the big leagues back at least 2 times. And I mean, he hasn't been getting many outs, hasn't been pitching well in the minor leagues. And I think he's making this start because Yamamoto went on the IL, and they're kind of running out of pitchers, starting pitchers. The Dodgers are. Their bullpen's still very good. But I think the Rockies can put up some numbers on Bobby Miller here. My concern with them is the Dodgers' elite bullpen after Miller exits the game. But I do like the Dodgers to get to Miller. No interest in Miller himself. Clearly no interest in Feltner. Love the Dodgers, Ohtani, Freeman in particular. And, those aren't super strong takes. I think my best take or strongest take here is that Miller isn't going to be the same pitcher that we've seen throughout his career. Start with you, Mangone. You know, Big T, we'll get to you. But, Mangone, what do you think here on Coors Field?
Coors, I kind of want to go the Rocky side a little bit more. Talk about Big T when he says he eyeballs lineups. I want Big T. I want you to eyeball that Dodgers lineup today. I mean, it's definitely kind of ugly. Like Ohtani, Freeman, Hernandez with Paez in the 4-hole, Hayward, Lux, Biggio.
Yeah, but you just don't play the bottom. It's all right.
This is one thing that I stress. When you use an optimizer, you need to make sure that you are careful with your Dodger stacks, because you might have some teams that just go all these clowns, and I don't want all of them. I'm okay with having I would even maybe set a rule of at least 2 of those guys. I just want to make sure I have some of those studs in there. Maybe you could make it max 1, but I just want to make sure I'm getting them because they're just that important in your lineups. Or maybe you boost those projections on those 3 and then call it a day. But I want to make sure that I have exposure to those guys at the top because that lineup is ugly. I do like the take on Colorado, and this Colorado lineup's getting good. Doyle, I shouldn't say getting good. That's probably a little let me backpedal there. It's not getting good. It's improving. Well, we'll go with that. It's improving. Doyle, Jones, Tovar, McMahon, Stallings, Toglia, Cave. I know he can always be a pinch hit risk at times, but the Rockies suck, so I don't think there's that much pinch hit risk. Montero and Amador. Overall, I do think that 5-man or even the minis of the Rockies is really intriguing. So because of the ownership of the Dodgers, and I guess the more you talk me into wanting to play Mets, I'll probably be lower on the Dodgers than I thought I was going to be. And I want to be higher. I want to be overweight on the Rockies and more even with the field, I guess, on the Dodgers is kind of the take I'm looking at. And pitching wise, I really don't want to play any pitchers here. I don't think it makes sense. It's a pretty good pitching slate, so no pitchers here.
Yeah, I would not play the pitchers here. Big T, your thoughts on Coors Field? Obviously, a big question mark on any slate that has Coors Field on it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with DC. One of the good parts I like of the Dodgers, though, is, and I'm one of the, I think, original. A lot of people do it now with the bottom of lineups where I used to just print with that move, and the Dodgers are just not one of those teams, like DC said, where
you got to have decent hitters down there. I mean,
Austin Barnes is one guy I refuse to play. I just won't do it. I just won't put him in my he's just too bad. And the good part, though, is you got the first, even Jason Hayward, I think, is a pretty good play. I mean, he's been decent this year. I know he's a splits guy and gets pinch hit here and there.
Let me cut in real quick there, Big T. It looks like to me no available lefty relievers for the Rockies, so Hayward should get the full 9 innings.
So that makes me like him even more. And the another good part is, so you talked about the top half of the lineup. You can only play 4 of them because you got 3 outfielders and 2 first basemen, 4 outfielders and 2 first basemen, however you look at it. So really you can only do that. And then so that limits you to, if you're playing a 5 stack, which I will, that'll limit you to what Mangone said of 1 scrub, which I don't want it to be Austin Barnes, but I'm okay with 1 of Kiki, Biggio, or Lux. I don't like them, but I'm okay with 1 of them just to plop them in there and get my full stack. And they do suck really bad. But I like that. I mean, they just always roll. They just always roll in Coors. Always. They just always score a bunch. Even yesterday, they were dead. Still get there in the end and score a bunch of runs. But like Mangone said, I think the Rockies are better than people think. And I know it doesn't show with their record. And it might not even show with their fantasy points yet. I'm just now starting to get fully dialed into the baseball. now that hoops is over. But I look at this lineup and I look at their recent production, and I love it because the scrub guys are cheap and cheap at cores, and the good guys are priced like good guys. And you got rid of all those like really shitty guys that I hate when they're in there, like Chris Bryant and just that Blackman, Charlie Black, all those just absolute dusty dudes are no longer in there. So I love this lineup. I actually like it more than the Dodgers as well, just because you can go top to bottom. And look, I don't think the Amador or whatever his name is good, but he's 2,600 in cores. I don't know, at second base. Montero's been awesome down at the bottom. I always like Cave. He's one of the guys that he was all mad at the ump last night in right field. I like that with the check swing. Everyone likes cores, but I love cores tonight. Rockies, like I said, I said my plan with the Dodgers too.
Isn't Amador a stolen base guy, DC? Was that the guy we looked up that was really fast?
Anyone named Amador has to be a speedy guy.
Yeah.
Well, there were
like
two guys.
Travis Mangone. You just know he's fast when they say Travis Mangone.
There you go.
I actually don't think Amador is the guy you're thinking of, Mangone, but he does have stolen base upside for sure.
There's that guy that you said that was like 40 stolen bases and like
there was a guy who had like 90 stolen bases and he couldn't hit enough to say. But Amador, I do think, has at least some upside. I'll reiterate the thing about the Rockies bullpen. I think it's a big deal on this slate. Jalen Beeks, their only lefty, threw 29 pitches last night. He's their closer or close to it. I would be very surprised if he pitched in this game. It makes a big difference. Listen, Hayward, Biggio, Lux, all pinch hit risks most nights. They should be safe here. I think they get the full 9 innings. Hayward in particular, I think, is a strong play here, but I'll play some Biggio too. I don't mind that at all. I can play him at third base or outfield. So, gotta like the Dodgers here. I saw a question about Miller. Sims like Bobby Miller. I would like Bobby Miller here too if I thought he was healthy and normal. Bobby Miller
always liked the pitcher against the Rockies too. I figured that out over the last couple of weeks. All the pitchers, even at cores, against the Rockies seem to pop more than they should.
That's something, and they also, the Sims, there's no way they are taking into account the fact that Bobby Miller is likely not himself. They're looking at his normal stats, and I just don't think that's the case for Bobby Miller. So, yeah, maybe he'll pull it out, but I will have no Miller.
I legit think this Rockies lineup is. I know people probably make fun of it, but I legit think this lineup's like a good lineup.
I mean, if we just isolate like the top 5, it's not bad. Like, I don't know.
Toglia has been good at times. Like I like Toglia and Montero.
He's not bad.
They're scrubs.
Yeah, I don't know. And like we talked about this last year. We're like, they have all these young guys coming up, and we were like, can they just get rid of the dusty old dudes? And like,
please.
They're all gone for the most part, right? Like, I mean, this is not.
And they got more young guys just besides these. I mean, you guys know that DC knows the players for sure more, but I know they got more young guys. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but they've been in the lineups lately.
Yeah, it's an improving lineup. They got Nolan Jones back in there, Ryan McMahon, both those guys, especially the lefties against Bobby Miller, I like quite a bit. As I said, a little bit of concern with the Dodgers bullpen, but, it's Coors Field, and I don't think these Rockies are bad plays whatsoever.
Never know when you just get a blowout, too, like early on, and then you get the dustier bullpen guys type thing, too.
Yeah, I definitely I like the Rockies stack a lot today. So.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it whatsoever. Let's get to these last 2 games, Milwaukee and the LA Angels. 8.5 total in this one. Tyler Anderson continues to be Houdini and get the job done. I'm not really sure what's going on with him. I don't really expect it to continue. Neither does the market. The Brewers have, I believe, the second highest team total on this slate, sitting at around 5 runs against Tyler Anderson. Bad Angels bullpen behind him. That certainly has something to do with it. And then Freddie Peralta pitching for Milwaukee will be one of the higher-owned pitchers on this slate. In my opinion, has been a little bit disappointing this year overall, especially in some really good spots like he has here. I mean, look at his last 2 outings. 4.2 fantasy points against Cincinnati, 2.1 against the Tigers, even the 20 against the Chicago White Sox. It's not really what we're looking for when his price tag was $11K. So I get the Freddie Peralta play. I prefer the other three studs. That's Reagans, Ryan, and Crochet over Peralta myself. Not that he's a bad play, but he is my least favorite of those four. And then, Tyler Anderson, I'm not playing him. No chance, 7,700. Probably scale it back from what the field is doing on the Brewers. Obviously, playing all Mets, so that doesn't leave all that much room for anything other than Coors Field for me. But yeah, I'm not going to have that much of this game overall. Probably will be, frankly, under the field on both pitchers, and I think both stacks. So I guess not much from me here. Mangone, how much interest you got in Milwaukee and the Angels on the slate?
Yeah, our guy Bill Miner, he said Peralta's the guy who's off until he gets back on track. I want to be on him before he gets back on track. Like I think this is a good spot. Like I want to be there now. I think now the Angels, the one argument I'll make with the Angels is they've kind of been a bit of a pesky team, like for sure. They've definitely caused some fits for people, but I want to take some stabs on Freddie Peralta. I understand he does have ownership, but I just think the positive regression's coming. I'm going to take stabs on him. I think he's between him and Reagans as my SP1. I'm kind of leaning as Peralta as my favorite pitcher on the slate. So he's my current guy right now. And Milwaukee's definitely a good team to play. Anderson has definitely, I mean, if you look at the numbers, I don't know how he keeps pulling it off. Milwaukee's not the team to pull it off against them, right? Like Milwaukee hits almost everyone. I'll definitely like this Milwaukee team today. I'll definitely have some exposure to them. Might be more mini stacks just because there's some expensive offenses and pitchers I want to get to, and they always have value throughout their lineup. So maybe it'll be more Milwaukee minis, but they're definitely in the conversation today. And no Houston for me. I know Peralta can get wild and has had his struggles. I'm going to take my chances on betting on Peralta. Turns it around tonight.
Big T, Angels and Brewers here.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Anderson's just a guy. I've talked about it for years. I just don't like stacking against him. And you guys brought it up right out of the gate. Whether he does it with mirrors, he reminds me of that old Boston guy that just sucked for like 10 years and just never gave up. What was that dude's name? The lefty, the big game pitcher?
Is it John Lester?
Yeah, Lester. Like that dude sucked for like 12 years, and I don't think he ever gave up a game that the other team won, like a stack, and everyone would stack against him for like a full decade. But I don't like Milwaukee, and I'm looking at our stacks chart over on the Run Pure Sports site, and like Milwaukee's numbers are worse than you would think, worse than I thought before I pulled it up. Like it's all bottom half numbers, and you're against a pitcher, and on a slate where we like Coors and the Mets. So I am not going to be on Milwaukee. I'm obviously not going to be on Tyler Anderson either, but I don't like that. I do like Peralta, obviously, with Mangone and pitching. I don't love the offense on this slate. That's why I said I love this slate, because I only like a few offenses, and the pitching just looks good to me. A lot of these pitchers look pretty solid. So I'm going to be on Peralta and no Milwaukee, no Angels, no Milwaukee, no offense in this game, but definitely Peralta.
Yeah, I like when I'm condensed on one, just kind of one take, right? And it's the Mets for me. They don't mix in, 5 or 6 pitchers that I like and mix in some Coors. But, sometimes it's like last night, it was I love the cheap pitching, and then you mix it around from there and try to get to the top that way. But yeah,
isn't it fun on the nights when you love the cheap pitching too, because you could just play all the bats?
Yeah. Those are my nights like last night are my very, very favorites types of slates. But nights like tonight, where I'm just sending it on a pretty low-owned offense, are also pretty fun. And you just win or go down with the ship and try again tomorrow if it doesn't work out. But let's talk about the last game of the slate: Kansas City and Oakland. We've got Cole Reagans pitching for the Royals. He's had kind of a tough schedule this year. Faced the Dodgers in LA last time out. Has faced San Diego recently. When he's gotten a good matchup, though, against Oakland, who he faces tonight, put up 31 DraftKings points. He faced Toronto a couple times, contact-oriented. Baltimore, a good team. So it's been Houston he's faced. Like, he just hasn't had a perfect run out of matchups. He gets one here, though, certainly. I know Alec Marsh failed a lot of people last night. I wouldn't really downgrade Reagans at all for that. I think he bounces back for the Royals in a big way here. 9,800 for him. He is my SP1 on this slate. I've got to choose one guy. I think, checking ownership now, I do think, he does look like he will be the highest owned pitcher on this slate. I think deservedly so. But I love Reagans here. I think he racks up the strikeouts against the A's, who, they had the big game against Alec Marsh. Would make sense for Reagans to punish them tonight. So I am absolutely in on Reagans. Definitely not in on Luis Medina. Probably not playing that many Royals bats either, though. It's just tough to get there, I think, in this park with Coors Field and a Mets team that we like. So I don't hate the Royals players, but just don't have room for them in my own personal lineups. What about you, Mango? What are you doing with Reagans and any bats in this game that you're going to?
Yeah, Reagan's definitely going to be up there with Peralta. I think they're 1 and 2 on the slate. Really good pitching option. The Royals, I'm not excited to play the Royals here. I think, we were playing them earlier in the year and it was fun. I haven't played them in a while. I don't see myself playing them anytime soon right now. I just don't think I want to do it.
They're fun when it's like 95 degrees in KC and the wind's blowing out. In Oakland, no pass.
Exactly. And the other problem with Kansas City is if you play Kansas City, you feel like you have to play Bobby Witt Jr. and Sal Perez, and I run out of salary, right? Even if those guys have pretty good games, I feel like they're priced up so high that you can find ways to fade them, right? Just because they are very expensive. So my overall take is fade Kansas City and just play Cole Reagans in this game. I don't want to play Medina, and I don't want to play Oakland either. It doesn't seem necessary.
Yeah, no need to overcomplicate this game, in my opinion. What about you, Big T? Oakland and KC.
Yeah, super similar to you. I'm never really going to like bats in this park. And I don't love I hate Medina, but I don't like the park, and I don't love this Royals lineup. I could play a one-off Bobby Witt or Pasquantino, or I could play a one-off from the Royals or something, but nothing I'm targeting. Definitely agree with you guys on Reagans. Honestly, it's easy for me to build multiple teams tonight, 150, but it's harder one team with pitching because, you look at these top guys. Reagans, Joe Ryan, Peralta, that's just at the top, and you go lower. It's hard for me to separate, especially those top three, though. If I'm building one team, I just love Reagans, Ryan, and Peralta. It's really hard for me to separate the three. I don't know which two I would put, honestly. How would you guys rank those three? They're all the same price, and they're all very similar to me.
I think it's close. I'll go first. Yeah, I think it's close. I'd go Peralta, Reagans, Crochet, Ryan. And I feel more confident in Peralta and Reagans than Ryan and Crochet.
I have Reagans number one. I have Reagans, Ryan, and then you didn't mention him, Crochet. I know the numbers. I'm sure that's kind of what you're looking at, Big T. Don't look quite as good for Crochet, but I actually think he's the best pitcher of these four, and maybe lower ownership against Houston as well. So I do like Crochet a lot. I would include him in these four, but that's kind of why we're making a big stand on the Mets, is because I want to mix and match these top pitchers. I want to throw Hunter Brown in that mix, some low-owned Taj Bradley, who I think has a bunch of strikeout upside. So that's 6 pitchers who I'm very comfortable on any lineup. And when I got that many pitchers who I think have upside at various price points, then you kind of, or at least my strategy is to look for a stack that I can kind of send it on and hope, if the stack hits between the 6 pitchers, you'll get 2 of them, right? You think that will eventually go up and it maybe gets you close to the top. So, yeah, that's kind of the same thoughts as you on the pitching. It's very close between, I think, the top 4 guys. And then I think Hunter Brown is an amazing play. And then Taj Bradley.
The 2 cheapies are that's what's the funniest part. Taj Bradley and Hunter Brown, are incredible. Bradley, you just look at it. I know he had one bad game versus Baltimore, but every other game's been 20-plus fantasy points for 8-10.
He's good, man. He's gonna be, looks like he's going to be under 10% owned.
Strikes out, too. I just – pitching is incredible tonight. And the more we talk about it, the more I'm just leaning in with you to the exact strategy. The Mets lineup checks out. And these the one thing, just because rankings do matter for the people that play one, I think Joe Ryan's that's my only like slight disagreement. And then you got not even disagreeing because you guys like him. I just think just looking at the numbers and how much Tampa Bay has struck out so freaking much. All their numbers, I love this chart on the site that Stevie Boynton does, and the numbers for Tampa Bay look way worse than all the other matchups with these top guys. So that puts Joe Ryan, for me, to the one hole, but I love them all. I want to be somewhat even with all of them.
Yeah, it's close enough for me where I'm not even going to argue otherwise. I have no problem with any order of those.
And honestly, they're probably all going to crush. I've seen nights like this where there's like 6 pitchers that all crush. So yeah. I don't think you're going to win it at pitcher tonight.
Yeah, which is why we're spreading it around, or at least I am, on the slate. But let's get to stacks, pitchers, home runs, favorite offensive plays on the slate. We'll start with you, Mangone. Favorite overall stack and favorite contrarian stack.
Okay, favorite overall. Obviously I'm not gonna say the Mets because you're saying them. I mean, favorite overall is probably the Dodgers, right? It scores, but my under-owned one is definitely the Rockies. The Rockies are going to be the team that I'm overweight on that other people definitely won't be. So it'll be the Rockies for me.
I have the same answer for favorite overall and favorite contrarian. It is obviously the Mets, but another direction I will look at contrarian-wise is these Orioles lefties against Garrett Cole. I think he's going to give up a home run or two to Gunnar, Adley, Ryan O'Hearn, who are going to be roughly 0% ownership against Garrett Cole. I think they could do some damage. Big T, favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack.
Oh, we were in just total unison until you just started playing hitters against Garrett Cole on me.
You
got me off your trail there with the Baltimore guys coming in there. But I mean, like I said, I think the whole time I've been on, we've talked about it. I mean, I agree. The Mets, Coors, that's kind of where I'm at. But as far as contrarian, I like the Blue Jays a little bit. More of a mini stack for my I'm full stacking those 3 teams tonight. Mets, Dodgers, Rockies. But mini stacks like contrarian. Yankees, I think the Yankees, especially if you spend up a little bit, like Stanton, with Judge out, I don't think they're going to get ownership, but Stanton's been incredible too. Like you got cheaper guys at the bottom. Grisham, I mean, how long is this lefty from Baltimore even going to be in?
Full 100 pitches.
So I always play Grisham against righties. He's a splits guy, but 2,200, and he's going to be literally 0% owned to help you get up to some bigger bats. I don't hate the Grisham play at the bottom as a one-off, but who else is kind of contrarian? I just don't. I love slates like this because I'm not playing any of the late offenses, not playing Houston or the Whites. I'm really just not going anywhere besides those 3 spots, besides one-offs and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's get to most important pitcher. Who do you think you're going to be most over the field on at starting pitcher, Mango?
Probably Hunter Brown. I liked him a lot as a value. I just think he's someone I'm just going to ride out for probably the next couple of months, no matter what. So, and in the matchup against the White Sox is good. I know the White Sox were hitting better for the past week or so, but they are still the White Sox. They're still not this amazing team. So I'll go with Hunter Brown.
Big T, I've been looking at just the Sabre ownership. They've still got Hunter Brown in the 15% ownership range. You might have access to some different numbers than I do. Do you think that's going to come close to true, Hunter Brown at 15%? Because if so, I mean, that seems egregious to me. I assume it's going to be higher, but they haven't moved, so I don't know.
There's just a lot of pitching on this slate too, where I mean, it's got to be higher than 15, but I don't think it's like 40 or something.
The rest of their numbers, I don't really have a problem with, so maybe.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm looking at it too. Where I mean, I definitely think I don't have Sabre up, so I'm just saying what I got right now. But I mean, I think Reagan's is clearly the highest at probably 40s, and then Joe Ryan, Hunter Brown, Peralta, all in the 20s. I mean, that's kind of where the point being, though, we like these pitchers, and it's just not that much ownership tonight. So I think our plan is perfect, and I know we keep saying it, but. Jam like 6-7 pitchers, spread them out, pound in the Mets and Coors, and maybe some one-offs here and there to sprinkle in with it.
Need the Mets to go off.
This dude's making me want to play Grisham even more. Grisham, there's nothing I like more than when people make fun of my 2,200 one-off that is going to be 1% owned. Like, that's my absolute favorite.
Classic Big T baseball show. Happens once a show. Recommend some big platoon, dusty-ass hitter. People make fun of him, and Big T loads up anyway. Who do you think is going to be most important pitcher, Big T? Who you? I know you're mixing it around, but
I think Joe Ryan will be my most important, especially now that I think he'll be owned in the 20s. I mean this Tampa Bay finally fell off a little bit. Their lineup is so bad. Joe Ryan's going to be my most important, but that's relative too, because I don't see myself like some nights I'm going all in on pitchers and stuff. Not tonight, but Joe Ryan will be on my main team for sure.
Yeah, I would answer Hunter Brown, and he's going to be on a lot of my teams. But Taj Bradley coming in, it looks like sub 10% against the Twins. I mean, sign me up. I'll have, I don't know, at least I think 30% Taj Bradley in my 150. Should be
honestly, it's probably the winner, Taj Bradley and Hunter Brown, that mid-tier. We're talking about all the stud guys, but those two mid-tier guys look really good to me.
And that's how I was thinking of building. Like I liked Bayo a little bit, so I was considering him or Bradley like with Hunter Brown.
I don't think you can play Bayo with all these good pitchers.
I think you can.
It makes sense, I guess, on this slate, but people do get a hard on for paying up for pitching. I don't know. They feel like
you just always have salary afield, at least for me, because I play dusty hitters here and there, but I always have salary. Yeah, I'm playing Trent Grisham, so I have it's just everyone always goes up. Everyone's going to play one of the top guys. At least that's how I feel. They're going to play one of those three, whereas if you just play those two, I mean, what's the ownership going to be on that combo? Like 2%. I mean, it's just not going to be high on those two, and they've crushed.
Yeah, sign me up for that. Home run call, man. Who's going deep tonight?
Going deep is we'll go with Ryan McMahon. He takes 1 yard.
Love that call, Big T. Who's your home run call tonight?
Besides Trent Grisham and Jose Iglesias.
Yep.
I'm gonna go lefty. Brandon Nemo. Finding Nemo is going to find us a Jimmy Jack here in the first inning and get our Met stack off to the races.
Usually it's Mangone who doesn't know that it's Brandon Nemo, but yes, Finding Nemo going yard for Big T.
Don't be bringing more bad mojo in here, DC. We're aligned, or we got things going here.
I thought it was okay if it was mostly a dig at Mangone, but I guess not. Sorry.
Yeah, I did a show once, Big T, and he said I didn't know you could mispronounce every single name in the lineup, but I found a way to pull that off. So yeah, DC loves to dig those in there.
Sorry. I'm going down to the bottom of the Mets order. Harrison Bader going yard for the New York
Now you brought me back in. Now we're back aligned. We're back together that quick.
We're back on board. Doesn't take much. Overall favorite offensive hitter on the slate, Mango.
Yeah, I'm going to go with JD Martinez. I talked about him a lot earlier. So against the lefty, I love JD Martinez, and he's been hitting amazing. So I'll go with it.
Big T.
What's the next question? I don't even know.
Your favorite hitter on the slate. Favorite
hitter. Honestly, when I factor ownership and who I like your boy Bader. Bader was like the guy I had targeted, but if I don't want to give the same one, my favorite hitter, give me Montero from the Rockies in the 8-hole, first base, only 3,200. I like him a lot as far as just another low-owned guy that just isn't going to get owned that I like a lot.
All right. Ellie Harris Montero. Didn't see that play coming, but I will go with Mr. Francisco Lindor, your play of the night. Get him in your lineups. Thank me later. That'll do it for this show. I think me and Mangone back tomorrow morning, 11 Eastern time before our date to the Rockies game following that. Appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Glad to have the boss man, Mr. Big T, joining us today. For Big T, for Mangone, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.